Hello, this is Dr. Rodriguez from Arizona State University, Fulton Schools of Engineering, and today I'm going to try to give you a few tips, some philosophical tips, some tips on critical thinking, that is, thinking about our thinking, and also some tips on general planning. And so let's begin. First, I'd like to begin with a few philosophical principles that I think are good for all of us in this ASAP program, this Academic Success and Professional Development Program that we're part of. Okay? And so I'd like to begin by first pointing out the so-called 147 Delphic maxims. So these are ancient 6th century proverbs, 6th century BC proverbs. So they're very old. And the point here is that a lot of the things that we need to do has been known for a very, very long time. But just because it's been known, that does not mean that it's practiced. Okay? And so these 147 maxims or proverbs, I think many of them are very relevant to what it is that we're trying to do. And so I took the liberty of listing a few of them, and specifically the ones that I think are most relevant, I've highlighted in red and I've underlined. So the ones that come to mind as being particularly relevant to us, given that we're all interested in learning, we're all interested in growing as learners, as professionals, as humans, okay? So first, I think we should know what you've learned. Now, what does that mean, know what you've learned? Well, it's important to understand, really, what do you know? And it's even more important to understand what you don't know. So this proverb, the way I interpret it is, it's important to understand the limitations of your knowledge. And that is vital, especially for engineers that are learning theories, that are learning approaches to problems. All these theories, all these approaches to problems, all of them have limitations. And one of the most profound things that I learned as a graduate student was the following. All theories, all models have limitations, but stupidity does not have limitations. So when I see the maxim, know what you've learned, this is what I'm thinking of. And so it's very important for all of us scientific professionals to try to know what we've learned. And again, know what you know what you don't know the limitations of what you know. The second one I want to bring up is know yourself, or know thyself. That's, again, one of the most popular of these proverbs. And what that means is, I think, try to understand yourself. And you need to be honest with yourself. That's what know thyself means. And this is a big deal because I think many people don't really know themselves. And they might even tell themselves, oh, well, I'm a certain way and I like certain things, but really they're another way. And they're not really being honest with themselves. It's very important to try to be honest with yourself so that you can understand engage your personal limitations. Okay, another one that I think is very important to all of us in this program is know thy opportunity. That's very, very, very important because, you know, you can have an opportunity that's right in front of you, right in front of your face, but you might not be prepared to see it, even though it's right in front of your face. So what does that mean? I mean, how do you really know your opportunity? The only way to know your opportunity that's right in front of your face is if you are prepared for it. Okay, so so the underlying implication of this proverb is be prepared, because if you're not prepared, you will not be able to know the opportunity before you. And I think one of the saddest things is to have this tremendous opportunity in front of you, and you're just not prepared, and so therefore you don't see it. Later on, I will be talking about luck, and I will say that luck is nothing more than when preparation and opportunity meet. Okay, another maxim that's very important is be a seeker of wisdom. You know, all of us should be a seeker of wisdom. And, you know, I'm trying to speak to you not so much as a professor who's wearing a tie and all this, my professor costume. I had a meeting earlier today, so that's why I'm dressed this way. But I'm trying to speak to you more as a friend, someone that cares, trying to help you build certain things that will help you in all aspects of your life. And so if you're constantly seeking wisdom, constantly seeking knowledge, constantly questioning yourself, constantly questioning what you're learning, you're always searching for a better way, for the truth, then I think that's very healthy. That will help you very, very much. Now, the sooner you become this seeker of wisdom, the better off you will be. Now, being a perpetual seeker of wisdom takes work, but anything worthwhile takes work. And so I, for example, if I hear something that I don't understand, I look it up right away. That's just something I decided a long time ago that I would be that type of person. And then when the internet came to being, then my goodness, now I don't have to go to the library anymore to find many of the things that I need. I can find them just using my computer. Now, for the more serious things that I need to learn about, I go to bookstores, I go to the library, I get the professional journals and publications. All right. Another one that I think is very useful is be grateful. Being grateful is very important. That's another way of saying that we should all have a glass half full philosophical outlook on life, because it's much better to be happy and optimistic about things than if you're thinking, oh, the glass is half empty. Now, we are all going to suffer disappointments, always. We're going to have dear family members that get sick and even die. I mean, that's just part of life. And that's something that we have to prepare for. Some of us, many of us maybe, might even choose, hey, I don't want to think about it. When it happens, that's when I prepare. That's not a good strategy, because when it happens, you will not be prepared. It is important to start preparing for the big things now. Right now, start preparing for all the big things, so that when the big things happen or whatever, you've at least started preparing, and you might even be prepared. Okay. The next one is don't tire of learning. Hey, that's like be a seeker of wisdom. I underlined another one, share the load of the unfortunate. That's try to help people, right? Try to help people. And again, going back to that, be grateful. Hey, there's so many individuals that would like to be in our situation, namely studying engineering. We are very lucky. Always remember that. Okay, let's keep going. So here's what I was saying earlier. What's luck? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, or L is equal to P plus O, or LPO, or LEPO. I mean, these are mnemonics for all of this, okay? And so if you're unprepared, you won't even notice the opportunity that may be staring you directly in the face. And so that's my definition of bad luck. That is being unprepared for an amazing opportunity. And so this reminds us of the Delphic maxim, know thy opportunity. Due to Pittacus, for those of you that are interested in actually tracing this back to ancient Greek philosophy. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Be persistent. Don't give up. Now, we all must use judgment. I mean, sometimes we do have to give up on certain things. All right, but certainly when it comes to your life dreams are important. You should give it all you got and then give it some more. You don't want to have any I didn't do my best regrets. That's very, very important. And we can all see individuals in our lives, maybe parents, maybe other relatives, certainly older friends, and then they will tell you, hey, I wish I had done this when I was younger. And so that's very, very important. And a saying that I came across that I thought is very, very useful, perhaps to anyone who's doing something that's difficult, like an engineering student, is in veniam viam. And that just means find a way or make one. And that is a saying attributed to Hannibal, the great or infamous general. And so related to this is two Delphic maxims. One is finish the race without shrinking back. Again, that's just another way of saying, hey, give it your all. And another one is on reaching the end, be without sorrow. That's another way of saying plan well so that in the end you don't have any regrets. All right, but on the way you should have the philosophy of not giving up, giving it your best. And I think that these couple of pictures that I have on the slides are pretty cool. I mean, look at the snake that's about to eat that frog, but along comes an eagle that's going to help that frog. So don't give up, all right, because there's going to be an eagle in all of our lives to help us get that snake. Okay, let's keep going. All right, so this is a biggie. This is a fairly busy slide, but we'll get through it. Become a fanatic critical thinker. All right, what is critical thinking? Okay, critical thinking is fundamentally thinking about your thinking. Okay, critical thinking refers to thinking about your thinking. And more precisely, and this is my definition, okay, but if you read many of the definitions that are given in the literature, they will have some components of the things that I have here. So it refers to analyzing, evaluating, improving the entire thinking process, how information is gathered, deciding on the quality of the information. How do you decide if the information that you've gathered is good or not? Examining the questioning that takes place. Okay, that's very, very important. Making sure that your questioning is systematic, that it is logical. Trying to make sure that nothing has been overlooked. Again, that's being careful. Have other points of view been missed? Have you looked at different angles? Again, that's being careful. Analyzing the thresholds that are used and set for determining whether or not an idea is acceptable. So this relates to, hey, when do I turn the page? Am I ready to turn the page? Now, certainly, if you've got deadlines, etc., you may have to turn the page now because you got to get through something, and you got to meet a deadline. But if you turn the page too fast, well, you should make a little note that you have to come back to that page and revisit it so that you can understand what's on that page in more detail. Now, I'm using the page as an analogy, but that the concept of a page can be taken literally, something that you're reading, or it could be any activity that you're examining in your life. All right, so critical thinking also involves analyzing the standards that are used. All right, being aware. So this is very important. Being aware of our irrational mind. We are all egocentric beings, meaning that fundamentally our inners, our brains, our brain is trying to protect us. That's what it does. It tries to protect us. Now, that doesn't mean it always does a good job protecting us. For example, when we exercise, our brain says, stop it. I don't like it. You're bothering me. This is painful. Now, we all know, all of us, that that's a perfect example of where the brain and our body, mainly our brain, okay, because our brain is the one in charge, our brain is betraying us. We all know that that exercise that we're doing, even though our brain doesn't like it, is good for our body. And if we do enough of it, we will train our brain to shut up. And our brain will eventually endure the pain and get used to it and then not complain anymore. Okay, so the first step, though, is to be aware that we're egocentric, meaning that our brain just inherently tries to protect ourselves, and that our brain, which is irrational, right, doesn't always do a good job in protecting ourselves. Now, we are also sociocentric beings, and that means that we try to protect the groups we belong to. And both of these, egocentric behavior and sociocentric behavior, we do this probably so much that we're just simply unaware of it. And so it's vitally important for us to be aware of this. If we're not aware of this, if we're not in touch with this, folks, we're going to make a lot of bad decisions in our life. A lot of bad decisions. And I don't just mean in school and in classes. No, I mean in personal relations, relationships with friends, relationships with your spouse, relationships with your children, etc. Relationships with your teachers, with your bosses. Maybe one day you'll be an employee, and you might be a manager, and so with your employees. So it's very, very important to be in touch with this irrational, egocentric, and sociocentric stuff that we have inside of us. And that the only way to attack these things is through logic. That is, training our rational brain to become stronger and dominate our irrational brain. Okay, now, this sounds very complex, and it is. Anything worthwhile really is complex when you look at it. Anything worthwhile takes time and effort It does not just happen just like that. In general, if something is very easy, then usually what that means is one of two things. Either you're a genius or a superstar in that area, or maybe you're just not pushing yourself hard enough. And I would argue, and so would the experts argue, that you need to push yourself. And it's only when you're pushing yourself, it's only when you feel pain, some pain, that's when you're really, really going to have the quote-unquote gain, right? No pain, no gain. That's not just for weightlifters and athletes. It is for everyone, including critical thinkers, individuals that want to be good critical thinkers. So if you practice enough, critical thinking can become second nature, just like walking, running, jumping, caring, helping, etc. Becoming a good critical thinker takes work. Just like hitting a baseball, manipulating a soccer ball, playing tennis, etc. Okay? And that's why I have some of these athletes on the slide here. Okay, let's keep going. All right. Learn to sift your mind. So this is a concept that was invented by Dr. Dan Siegel, and he describes this in his book called Mindsight, The New Science of Personal Transformation. And what he argues in there is that we must all, and that means children, teenagers, adults alike, learn to sift our mind. That is, carefully examine the many associated past and present sensations, okay, images, feelings, and thoughts. And the important message to take away here is, folks, the only thing that we can really control is our thoughts. Our sensations, we have these, and they're there. The images, again, we have these and they're there. We have certain feelings, and we just can't change those feelings just like that. It's the thoughts that we have that we need to learn to control. That's vitally, vitally important. And we must be aware of it. We must be conscious of it. And that's the first step towards grabbing control of our life and grabbing control of any aspect of our life. We have to be in control of our thoughts, or at least be aware that we're not in control of our thoughts. And then that is how we can take that step forward to be in control. And this is something I found here. You don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop letting them control you. So that's another way of saying what it is I just said. Let's keep going. Okay, so we must remind ourselves that feelings and the associated resulting thoughts, are not facts. That is, they are not reality. They are at best our interpretation or misinterpretation or distortion of reality. As such, pause and reflection are in order so that our rational brain can properly inform, guide, and calm our often troublesome and cantankerous, emotional brain, right? Sometimes our emotional brain can get the best of us, and we want to be aware of our emotional brain and what it does. That's very important for us, especially as professionals and as engineers. Okay, keep going. All right, so this is back to be grateful again. All right, and once again, you all have excellent career choices. Every engineering discipline is great. All right, and All my degrees are in electrical engineering. However, I can spend lots of time talking about any one of the engineering disciplines and why each discipline offers so much to you and to society, and just all the great opportunities that it offers. So all the engineering disciplines are amazing and offer great potential. So you need to realize it, and you need to be grateful. Okay. All right. Now, we want you to take control. We want you to question, analyze, and validate all the time. Again, this is part of critical thinking. Take control of your learning, your career, and your life. Be skeptical. A good dose of skepticism, supported by systematic questioning and standards, is fundamental to any modern-day analytic, scientific, or thinking professional. You should question everything. Now, you got to be careful. So here's a word of caution. Remember to turn it down a notch when you enter your home. Even if your spouse, roommate, etc., is a similar thinking professional. You don't want to overdo it. Peace in the home is an absolute essential. All right? But this continuous questioning is absolutely essential. It's part of what we call, right, lifelong learning. Okay. You should always seek validating evidence before accepting anything. Okay, now the extra time invested in getting this validating evidence, it's more time, but it will yield a tremendous return on investment. Right? You should always try to avoid shortcuts. The price of taking a shortcut may be simply too high, folks. Shortcuts may take an entire lifetime to pay off. I've seen this countless times. People taking a shortcut here, and then there, and then there. And all of this propagates from, say, one class to another class, or one project to another project, or one life problem to another life problem. And then you realize 15 years down the road or 20 years down the road that you have just put together a chain of shortcuts, and then associated with this chain of shortcuts are tremendous prices that you paid. And so being aware of that now is very, very important. Shortcuts have a price, folks. Right? It's very, very rare that a shortcut can help. So just be careful when you're looking for shortcuts. And just looking for a shortcut might be completely the wrong approach. In one of the previous videos that I made on learning, research-based learning tips, where we looked at the book Make It Stick. In that book, the authors beautifully write about how learning should be effortful, not shortcuts. And if it's not effortful, then again, you're not really going to gain much. So again, there's the no pain, no gain thing. This is not just for athletes. It's not for not just for weightlifters and football players and any type of athlete, but it's also for professionals. It's for anybody engaged in any difficult activity which is worthwhile. No pain, no gain. All right, let's keep going. All right, now I want to give you some tips on general planning. As students, planning your work, working your plan is vital. It becomes even more important when you get out into the world. Many students think that, oh, I can't wait to get out into the world. When I get out into the world, then I'll have freedom. You know, I sympathize with the student. You're in school. There's a lot of uncertainty. But, hey, and going out into the real world offers some great things, you know, like a paycheck. But it also comes with tremendous responsibility, and one of which is continuous learning. And, you know, and lots of other responsibilities. Responsibilities on the job, responsibility with the family, and responsibility with friends and relations, and blah, blah, blah. Planning is vital. Let's talk about planning. All right, planning. Well, we always want to plan ahead, okay? Plan your work and work your plan. That's something that a childhood mentor of mine taught me when I was young. That doesn't mean I learned it when I was young, but it always stayed in my head. This person, Theodore Hernandez was his name, and he taught me, plan your work, work your plan. And as a little kid, I thought, well, that sounds good, but I couldn't really fully appreciate it. But as I grew older, I saw little by little how important it was. And then I learned along the way that if you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. That's a saying attributed to good old Ben Franklin, one of the founding fathers. And another saying that I learned along the way that is, I think, very appropriate and in the same vein is, folks, don't build the plane during takeoff. That's another way of saying plan your work, work your plan, right? Because if you try to build a plane during takeoff, that is certainly very, very hard, if not impossible to do. So that's a great saying. There's some great sayings there. Now, more substantively, you need to learn to plan. All right, one can ask, how do you learn to plan? Well, almost everything. The way you learn it, or one of the ways you learn it, is by doing it and by failing and then correcting your failures and then trying again and failing again, and maybe you fail less, correct it, and you get better, and then you try again and you fail again, but you know, with every step you get a little better. And this is how most learning of everything takes place. You learn it by diving in and going after it. Now, before you really dive in, you should do a little homework. Okay, that's for anything, right? You don't just go and fly the plane. You're going to read about flying the plane. You don't go and just drive the car. You're going to read about maybe driving the car and the rules, and then you get a little practice, some little baby steps. And so this is how we learn everything. You know, we read, we ask, we try, baby steps. And then little by little we take bigger steps. All right? So let's keep going. Learn to plan. Learn to strategize about where you're going, how to get there. Get the big picture right. Try to get the big picture right. You know, where are you really going? Why are you going there? That's important. A mentor can help you. A mentor can help you with this. And certainly you can swing by my office, all right, come talk to me anytime. I would be very, very willing to help you. Okay? Learn how to set longer-term goals, and you need to set longer-term goals. That's very important. Okay, again, a mentor can help you with that. And you need to set supporting shorter-term objectives and milestones and achievable waypoints or targets, all right, each of which are going to help you reach those objectives and longer-term goals. All right, now all this takes practice, and you should not despair. Little by little. It's important to think about this stuff rationally, logically, systematically, step by step. Baby steps. Baby steps is the secret to almost anything. I often tell my children that when taking an exam, for example, how do you get fast at doing an exam? Well, the way you get fast at doing an exam is you practice, and you do very slowly first, very slow. By going very slow, you will absorb every little logical step. By going slower, even better, because it forces you, all right, to dissect every little step. You try to think about every step. And if you take that attitude of trying to dissect and understand every step, okay, it could be very frustrating at first, and you might even get a little nervous. You might say, hey, I don't have enough time to do this, so I have to skip steps. This is what most people do. Try not to skip steps, because in the end, when you skip steps, that's a shortcut. There's a price to pay. No. Try to take the long cut, not the shortcut, the long cut. Go through all the steps. Do this a few times, and then you will find that you can go through it really fast. That's how you get fast on exams, and fast with almost anything. The way to get fast with almost anything is to understand it deeply. And a good way to understand it deeply is to go through it slowly. Now that takes discipline and courage, because you have to say, okay, I'm going to hang in there and go slow, because I know that I'm going to have an aha moment. Now, hey, if you got a deadline in 1 hour, and you got only, 45 minutes to do the best you can, well, then you do the best you can in 45 minutes. All right, so another skill that we have to learn about is prioritizing. All right, and I don't have a secret formula for everything. Not at all. Okay, but these tips that I'm giving, if you actually are conscious of them, they will all help you tremendously. Not a little bit. No, they will help you tremendously. Now, these are all words. Words mean nothing until you internalize them and make them part of your being. When you internalize them and make them part of your being, then they start meaning something substantive. And then these simple ideas can become truly, truly very powerful, very empowering ideas. All right. Getting a little too philosophical. Let me keep going. All right. Planning and uncertainty. Okay. We all have to deal with uncertainty. There's always stuff that's going to come up, and it's going to surprise us. And we have to try to be prepared. So it's important to prepare for alternatives. Always. We don't always have a nice path to our destination. We think that the path to our destination might be a straight line, but in fact, the path to our destination might be full of canyons and mountains. And maybe we might have, and so different roads, different paths that we can take. And so we have to be prepared. We have to have alternatives. And so a saying that I found that I thought was pretty cool was the following, and it's pronounced adu Trump queparatus. Adu Trump preparados. And that's just a fancy way of saying prepare for alternatives. And then there's a quote that I found that was kind of relevant. You know, there's no such thing as good or bad weather. All we have is weather. And you have to be prepared for it, good and bad. And so that's just another way of saying prepare, right, folks? Every day, you should briefly go over your goals, objectives, targets, and plans. Every day. Every day I have a list. Every day I go over that list. Every day I might change the list a little bit, okay, because things happen and I have to reprioritize, okay? That list and going over these goals, objectives, and targets, and plans every day, it helps you stay focused, right? And you need to revise or adapt your short-term plans when necessary. We all do. We all must do this to accommodate unforeseeable events that arise. All of us. And so calmly and responsibly dealing with uncertainty is one of those critical life skills that we need to learn to develop. And in saying this, I have to urge all of you, don't ever change your long-term plans because of one bad experience. Right? If you have some long-term plans that you have thought about, maybe with the help of a mentor and other advisors and friends and everything, then if you have one bad experience, you shouldn't just change your plans. Certainly if a truck runs over you, well, then you got to change your plans. All right, but I'm sorry to get a little boy, that was a pretty bad example, right? All right, but you get what I'm talking about. So here's another example. Because Dr. So-and-so gave me a B in biology, I no longer want to become a prosthetic surgeon. Don't let this be you. No way. No way. If you have a dream of becoming a prosthetic surgeon, then you cannot let one experience in biology just change your life goal. Now, if you put your heart and soul into it, all right, and there was nothing that you thought to improve your biology, even then, there are many, many, many other classes that a surgeon must take in order to become a surgeon. Biology is not, everything. If you get a B in biology and you still want to be a surgeon, what I would say? Hey, go back, see what you messed up, learn that stuff on your own, and keep marching along. Right now, if you really have put your heart and soul and you think that you have no more to give, right, then maybe that's when you decide to give up. I think, when my kids take a test, I don't care so much what grade they got. I do care about what grade they got, but what I care more is that they do their best. And that's what we should all care. Did we do our best? Because if we've done our best, then we've done our best. And that's all we can do, our best. However, most of the time, we haven't done our best. And there's always something more that we can do. And so that's what I mean by never giving up. All right? So that's something to think about, okay? You should consult a very trusted mentor before changing your well-thought-out long-term plans or dreams. Okay? Let's keep going. All right. Preparing for courses. How do we prepare for courses? You should start preparing and planning for courses early, as early as possible. All right? Speak to students, advisors, about what to take, when to take it, and who to take it with. You should start this at least one semester ahead. Do your homework on classes, on the syllabi, on the text, on the exams, on the labs, the software, the reports, solutions, everything you possibly can related to that class. Do your homework. Gather everything you can. And then when you gather the material, use it wisely. Learn. Don't cheat. Don't cheat yourself. You know, if you get the answers to some problems, you should use that wisely. Of course, you shouldn't just copy the answers and turn them in. Obviously not. All right? And you shouldn't just, read over the answers and, and then just, copy them down. And, you should look over the answers and understand. Understanding really is the key to learning. Right? Again, there's really no shortcuts. And if someone gives you solutions, for example, that's like them giving you a rope to get out of a hole. Don't take the rope and tie it around your neck. Okay? That's not cool. So that's what I mean by don't cheat yourself. Always set mastery as a goal. Okay? I advise you to sit in on classes whenever you can. Have friends record classes for you and help you even gather all the useful, relevant resources. Start early, get organized, don't procrastinate. All right, now this one's important, especially for those of you on a scholarship where you need to have, say, 12 credits in order to maintain your scholarship, like, for example, our academic success and professional development scholarship. You need 12 credits. Okay? So here's what I call a GPA insurance. And that is that you need to drop when necessary. What do I mean? Okay. You might take a couple of extra safe classes. Okay? Easier classes. Okay? Maybe one of them could be, I don't know, salsa dancing, I don't know, music appreciation, right? Something that is easy for you. You know that you can complete and get a decent grade in, a good grade in. All right. If needed, drop those harder classes that may be killing you, that may kill your GPA. All right? If you're a mechanical engineering student and thermodynamics is killing you, and that's needed for the next class, well, then you may need to think, hey, maybe I should drop it, and maybe I'll take it over the summer, or maybe I'll take it next semester. But I don't want you to finish the class if you're going to end up with a bad grade that's going to hurt your GPA or even jeopardize your scholarship. I want you to keep your scholarship. And I also want to protect your GPA. Now, I am not trying to create, the last thing I want to do is sit here and say, okay, grades, that's what matters. No. On the contrary, learning, understanding, that's what matters most. However, I live in the real world. You live in the real world. I'm here to try to help you. We got to have our feet on the ground. Grades matter. If you let your grades suffer too much, then you're going to have problems working or seeking employment at certain companies. Certain companies won't look at you unless your GPA is at a certain level. So grades matter. Grades matter. Now, I want them to matter for you. Yeah, okay, because of the company. You want to go work for a company, sure, but more substantively, the reason I want the grades to matter for you is because I'm concerned about that next class that you're going to take. You know, this class is a prerequisite for the next class. And if you get a B in this class, well, then that means there's certain things that you left out, that you didn't learn. Now, you should try to learn it before you move on to the next class. But, you know, but here's what I want to say. If you get a B in this class, and you get a B in the next class, and then you get a B in the next class, these B's sort of add up. And by that I mean that sort of like they multiply. And what that means is, you know, what's a B? Oh, 85%, roughly, you know, 80%. So, okay, that means that maybe you missed out on 20%. So you miss out 20% of this class, and 20% of the next class, and 20% of the next class. And this starts adding up, folks. And so long term, you know, it can lock you out of something. And I just picked the B randomly. You know, I mean, that's just random. I hope you get the idea from my example. So this is why I care about the C grade. You know, my concern is, you know, you get one C, that doesn't change your life. All right, that's not a life changer, really. But you know, if you get a C and you don't try to learn on your own the knowledge that you didn't get, you know, for that next class, then you're going to have a deficit, and you won't be able to absorb fully the content of the next class, you know, as much as you would like. So that's why I care about the C grade, right? Because it can prevent you from hearing or learning something that could be crucial to your career. Now, again, if you get the C in a class, you know, say in the spring semester, and then over the summer, you go back and you say, okay, I'm going to learn what I didn't learn and master it, then that's it. The C doesn't matter anymore. And lo and behold, what I just said, hey, welcome to life. This is what life is about. You get knocked down, and what matters is getting up and what you do after you get up. You know, you wipe the dirt off, whatever, all right, and then you just move on. Okay? All right. So running away to fight another day is fine if done responsibly. Getting a W on your transcript is much better than getting a C or worse. A C grade or worse means you miss some important stuff. This can have very bad consequences in subsequent classes. And in my example suggests that, you know, these C's, they kind of multiply, and, you know, that's not good. And then I found this quote. It's from a general during the Korean War. And he said, retreat, hell, we're not retreating. We're just advancing in a different direction. Okay, so remember that, okay? Let's keep going. All right. As learners, as engineering professionals or students, we need to get and stay organized. So here's a saying of mine. How you organize impacts how you think. So what do I mean by that? If you have your stuff organized in a certain way, then it will allow you to quickly get the information that you need. And not only that, but if you organize it in a logical way, then you can quickly scan through it, sift through it, and if you keep doing it over and over, a bit, and you each time you go through it, you see logical step 1, logical step 2, logical step 3. You start thinking logically, very logically, and you start thinking, your thinking starts having structure. And so how you organize does directly impact how you think. It directly impacts your thought processes. All right? So it's important to organize stuff logically. It's important to be able to find stuff quickly. Like your thinking, your organizing should have structure. When you plan your work, prioritize organization. Always put time into organizing your stuff. In another video where I talked about big picture reading, that is scanning what it is that you're going to read in detail. First you scan it to try to understand, okay, what is this fundamentally about? What you're trying to do is trying to identify the structure of this. What is it about? What are the questions being asked? What are the solutions being proposed? And once you identify this structure, then you could dive in, and then you're sort of swimming from point to point to point to point, waypoint to waypoint to waypoint. It's you're going from point A to point B, from point B to point C, from point C to point D. It has structure. It's logically organized. And so that big picture scan ahead sort of organize things in your head before you dived in. So organizing is very, very critical, folks. A modern notebook can help you get and stay organized. What is a modern notebook? Okay. What is a modern notebook? Well, let's talk about that. You should record all lectures. Video if possible. That way you have them if you need them. If you need them, you have them. You might not need them, but you want to have them just in case. Serves as backup. You can go to if needed. Now, I try to advise students that whenever possible, they should try to use a tablet PC that permits you to take notes, video record lectures, import stuff, annotate stuff, compute, access the web, bookmark and download key resources, etc. All right? This is the future of note-taking. And the future is here, folks. It's arrived. Now, this tablet PC may be too expensive, and hey, if it's not within your budget, okay. But this concept that I'm putting out there, something that you should be aware of, and you might have a smartphone, and that smartphone you can use to bookmark lots of stuff and organize lots of stuff. Modern, so I see many successful students doing what I just described. The modern text is a collection of carefully selected and logically organized bookmarks to leverage existing electronic resources, okay, supplemented by notes, detailed annotation, etc. Okay? You want to download, store, and carefully organize your knowledge, tutorial, and information gems to form your personal electronic multimedia library. And you want to do this for the rest of your life. All right? My phone, which I have here, I've essentially created, I think I've probably created 30 books, effectively, I've created inside this phone. I mean, I've created books on economics, I've created books on sustainability, books on, oh my goodness, thermodynamics, books on robotics, books on unpiloted air vehicles, and many, many, many others. I mean, I can just go on and on. Books on biology, blah, blah, blah. I've created many, many books. That's why this phone is so valuable to me, because it has all these bookmarks logically organized. It allows me to get information very quickly. Oh, and yes, every once in a while, I will use it to receive and make a phone call. Okay. All righty. I think that is all I want to say for now. The next video will be learning tips. So I'm going to walk away for now. Thank you very much.